We will be talking with Congresswoman Donna Edwards about her position on raising the debt ceiling, and I'm sure you have one too. You can also send us a tweet at Kojo Show. Congress worked up until the final buzzer this past week to pass a bill that would raise the federal debt ceiling and to protect the country from default. It's a deal that also made way for heavy cuts to federal spending and promises to cut even more. And it's a deal that you felt in the end was not good enough. Why did you vote no?
Well, I had actually voted 2 times prior to raise the debt ceiling once. In fact, a clean debt ceiling, which had been done over 100 times in the Congress without tying it to these budget constraints. And one of my real concerns going into the final package was that it actually even changed from the one that we had just voted on a couple of days before. The levels of cuts that are going to happen are going to deeply impact a lot of very vulnerable communities, and I'm concerned about that. Even though I think it was important for us to raise the debt ceiling, I'm concerned also with the appointment of this so-called super committee, super Congress Joint Select Committee. Already, the Republicans have announced that they don't really plan to put anyone on those committees who believe in raising any kind of revenue. And I think that, as the president has said, you have to have a balanced approach to cutting back on government spending. And what we see today is that we have such a contraction in government at the same time that we're facing a real economic challenge. It's actually the wrong time to contract government spending on things like roads, bridges, water systems, and our infrastructure. We should actually be spending to make those investments now so they pay off in the future. And when you completely take revenue off the table, I think it's just a bad deal for the American people.
If your vote were the deciding vote in whether or not the debt ceiling would be raised under the bill that you voted against, would you have voted against it anyway?
I think that's a really good question. I was actually looking at the vote, and I had figured out by then that, in fact, the Republican majority and some Democrats would be able to pass this debt ceiling, which is why I thought it was really important to then look at the substance of the bill. And when you looked at the substance, hands down, I voted with, it turns out half of the Democratic Party voted for the bill and half of the Democratic Party voted against it, even split 95-95. And so, good question, but I had voted on a clean debt ceiling prior to that, but it was important to look at the substance.
So the answer to his question is?
Well, the answer to his question is...
No, I would not.
If mine had been the deciding vote that would have made the difference between the United States defaulting, of course I would not want the United States to default, but that really wasn't the question in the end, and we have to go forward from here, and I think it's important to lay some markers down that say we can't just cut spending without also raising revenue.